evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. It's so special to be back in Minneapolis and to be able to play with some of my best musical friends again. And I could say a lot, but I will just start with the music. I'll kind of say things as I go, but I haven't been back here in 5 years to play any music, so it's just amazing to be here. I'm going to start with some solo piano stuff, and I'll kind of lead you through as I go, but I'm just going to start playing first. Turn on my recorder. So that was called Underwater Color Ballet. That's from my newest album, Bright Little Worlds. And I wanted to start with that one because this is not just a concert, this is an art collaboration experience. You all probably saw the coloring sheets back there, and we are all going to make an art piece together. So I'll make that into a digital collage when we're finished. The next piece I'm going to play is another sort of lyrical, slow piece. If anyone's a fan of the show The Good Place, it's called Jeremy Bear Me, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's the name that they said is the shape of time in the afterlife. It doesn't go in a circle, it goes in a Jeremy Bear Me. I don't know, but it inspired this song. next one is also very floaty. If any of you were a child in the 90s or had a child in the 90s, you might remember Lisa Frank and the Technicolor folders that every kid wanted. There was one that had like a dolphin jumping, and they're like very brightly colored. Look it up. It's more cool if you can see it. But this has a lot of sort of up and down movements, and I just sort of imagined a very lively, colorful dolphin. So we'll see how that affects the art. Different at the end because I kept playing it wrong, and I was like, I actually like this better. So it's a good opportunity to embrace our mistakes sometimes. This next one is called Cold Moon, and it's probably the oldest piece that was on this new album, and it came out of this set of I guess conversations and experiments with my cousin who is here tonight. We did this little sort of back and forth where he drew something and then I wrote a little something, and then I don't remember how it ended up, but this was one of the pieces that came out of that. So this is Cold Moon. I have one more solo piece before I invite Laura to come up and join me on violin. This is a perfect place to play this piece because it's one of two St. Paul named pieces on the new album. This is called Meet Me in the Fern Room, named after the Fern Room at the Como Conservatory, which is the life-saving place that you go in the middle of February when you cannot handle another like brown, gray day and like the gross gray snow, and you're just over it and you need some humidity and some green. So this is a love letter to the Fern Room, basically. To invite up the lovely Laura Harada, one of my best musical friends, and also we were in the Modern Spark Trio together, which is about to reunite in 10 minutes or so after we play some duo stuff, and it's just really awesome to be back doing this stuff again. What an A. obvious reasons. It was a solo piece on the latest album, and at my Berkeley album release show, I played it with a friend who is on the last track on the album, which you will also hear as the last thing tonight, but she played alto flute on it, and we created that arrangement, and I found that it translated beautifully to violin too, so it's been fun to kind of see these pieces take on different forms. Now we're going to go back in time to my first album, which Laura played on this song called Anelanchi, which is a Portuguese word that kind of means like wishful or wistful, and I think you'll really hear that in the tune. really mellow. I hope that this has been good for your collective nervous systems and blood pressure and all that. But we're gonna bring it up a little bit now. We're gonna do some jazz. And Aaron's playing cello, but he acts like a bass player, which is cool. He can do both.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm ready.
So this next piece is called Sent a Monk, and I wrote it for Thelonious Monk's 100th birthday, which was 10/10/2018. And that year I did these 100-day projects where I wrote 8 measures a day for 100 days. And you know, like, you would think that would be really hard, and it kind of was, but sometimes it's just like, all right, I gotta show up and do something today, and whatever strikes you that day is whatever strikes you that day. So when I heard it was Thelonious Monk's birthday, I was like, yeah, this is something I need to do, a tribute to Monk. And I asked Aaron if he wanted to play on some of the jazz pieces, and he said, duh. So here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4. The trio stuff. This is another jazz tune, very different from the one we just played. It's more of a jazz waltz, and I didn't intend for it to be Vince Guaraldi-like, but it is kind of. It's called Possibilities. And when I recorded this, I looked down at the mug that I was using in the recording studio, and it was a Snoopy mug. So I think it's perfect. Here's Possibilities.
Yeah.
to the stage, and the Modern Spark Trio is back in session. So we have, Bright Leaves. We have 4 tunes that are previously solo pieces from my newest album, and I just wrote all of these arrangements a few weeks ago because I was like, you know what, I really want the trio to do a little bit more stuff than just the Brazilian trio we're going to play after that, which I'll tell you about in a second. But this one is called Before the Bright Leaves, and it's another sort of seasonal Minnesota written piece intended to think about like before the brightness of the sunlight leaves and also the brightness of the actual leaves. And one of my friends said she imagined skipping around a forest and collecting leaves listening to this song. So I hope you feel the same way. Right outside the Raymond Avenue stop, and I was doing one of those composition prompt days thinking like, what am I gonna write, sort of staring at the wall, and the window was open and I heard ding 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 ding, and I was like, oh, this is like in 7, this is like an interesting 7/4 kind of rhythm, and I started to write this and it turned into a whole piece, and then last month it became a trio tune as well. So this is the first that the trio arrangement is being heard too. What's the pitch? The train. I don't know. Okay. I don't know what the actual note of the train dinging is. Have to go do some field research. Also, shout out to Aaron on that one because he's kind of a minimalist, and I was like, maybe I'll kind of go in that direction here. I think it turned out kind of cool.
This made me very happy.
This next one is called Tender Ghost Glimmers, and it's very kind of melancholy, but also not entirely sad. Tender, just tender. before we enter the Brazilian part of the evening. This one is called Waving at Copeland. It's sort of a tribute to Aaron Copland. It didn't start out that way, but I did a little composition exercise where I reharmonized part of the end of Appalachian Spring, the coda movement, which is just my favorite and is so beautiful. So that's in the middle of this. Everything else is not Copland related necessarily, but I feel it has this kind of majestic feel that I wanted to name it after him. So this is Waving at Copeland. now we're going to play my Brazilian trio. I guess it's called Brazilian Trio Number 1. It needs a cooler name, but that's what it is. I wrote this 5 years ago, right before I moved to California, and we premiered it right here in this room, actually, in March of 2019. So it's really fun to be back in the same exact spot playing it. It has 3 movements. The first one is a choro, which is sort of like the Brazilian equivalent of what ragtime is in the US, to put it in a short explanation. The second is a baião, which is a rhythm from Northeast Brazil, and it also has a heavy dose of blues, and also percussion on all of our instruments. You'll see how that shakes out. That's pretty fun. And then the third movement is a samba. And the cool thing about this first movement is I actually dreamed the melody. Like, it was actually something that I could remember when I woke up, and it was actually coherent, and it was actually good, and it became a piece. So I don't know when that'll ever happen again, but it was really cool.
It's the hardest ending ever.
Sorry. Slash you welcome.
We did it. We got through it.
You gotta laugh, you gotta cry.
Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready.
1, 2, 3, 4. That seemed like the end, but wait, there's more! Got a few more tunes with percussion, which is very exciting. I'm going to welcome Tim O'Keefe to the stage.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to show off their coloring? How's it going?
Todd, what you got?
Anybody want to hold it up? Yeah? And I hope if people are coloring at home, it's going well. You can always send send your thing to me later. Thank you. Thank you. Love it. So while Tim's getting set up, I just want to say that there are lots of arts events happening here presented by Arts on La Fawn, presented by Mira here, who's running the live stream. Thank you, Mira, for doing that. So definitely check out Arts on La Fawn. They have a Facebook page, and if you find the website for this church, all the events are posted there, and there's a lot of great music going on. There's a new music series that Aaron is a part of that happens very regularly, and that's the kind of thing where you get to hear a piece and have the composer in the room with you, which is always just an amazing thing. So definitely check out what's going on here later too. Next up, I'm gonna play a piece called What's Next? And it's another Brazilian rhythm, and we're gonna have Aaron and Tim on this one. Yeah, no worries.
Getting there.
It's not all for the same song. Tim's just very prepared. He's getting ready for the whole set. One, two, three, four. He's very enthusiastic. So we've got a few with just piano and percussion, and then we'll have flute joining us in a little bit. But this next tune is the first tune off my first album. Thank you. It's called Maracatu do Manachim, and Manachim means manatee, and Maracatu is a style, a carnival style from northeast Brazil. And I just imagined, like, there's a lot of these, like, little low notes, not like Jaws, that's what that sounded like, but more uplifting than that. And I imagine the manatee just sort of like rising out of the sea and grooving, obviously. So here's Maracatu do Manachim. 1, 2, 3. or actually rehearsing for that one before we recorded, because I didn't know exactly what percussion we would do. And I just thought, okay, like Tim will have some ideas. And he just like would run in his percussion room and grab something, and he'd be like, wait, what about this? Oh wait, what about this? And he kept just grabbing things, and it was so much fun to just layer all of that percussion together. And this setup is awesome because it incorporates a lot of it, because he only has 2 hands, unfortunately, but yeah. And if you like the piano and percussion style, that's what most of my first album is. If you don't have a copy, go see Eleanor at the table. Haven't plugged the CDs yet. There's also a link for digital albums if you are no longer listening to CDs, but I do have the discs. So the next one is called Sombras Remanescentes, which means lingering shadows in Portuguese. It's a samba, and I referred to it as the dark samba before I figured out what the name was, because it has a lot of these like crunchy kind of dark harmonies. And I wrote this in May of 2021, when I just was not really sure, or all of us were kind of like, we're excited, we're not sure if we feel okay in public, all of that sort of mixed feeling kind of stuff. So there's a lot of like the darker, crunchier harmonies, but then there's a lot of brighter harmonies too. And spoiler, it ends on a major chord, so we're gonna be fine. One, two, three, 4. called Gingandu, which is sort of an untranslatable word for like grooving, swinging. It definitely has a good groove to it. It also goes through all 12 keys in the chords because I have this disease as a composer where I can't stop modulating all over the place. So it's a little weird, but I think it's cool. So I hope you do too. this last one we're going to play for you is about my cat. His name is Suki. He's not here today. He's in California at our house, but he is a trouble paws. And this song is called Patas de Problemas, aka Trouble Paws. Shout out to my friend Lauren, whose cat is also a trouble paws, and kind of got the idea from that. But Suki is a really nice guy. He's aggressively affectionate. He really likes people, but he's just always getting into stuff. And the first time that Laura came to my house, he was looking up at her like this. And I forgot to warn her in time that that is the I'm gonna jump at you look. And so all of a sudden he was here, hanging from her scarf and just dangling. So to give you an idea of the kind of guy he is, that is it. So this is called Patas de Problemas, or Trouble Paws. And when my friend Debbie came over to play this, she's the one who was on the album playing it. She was like, this is a flute piece. And I thought, you know what, it is. So it had to become a flute piece, and I'm so thrilled that John can join me to play it today. Okay. This one's on the first album as well, with marimba, but it's very cool with flute as well. It's kind of a hybrid mashishi, which is like an early shoro type style, and part samba. so much for coming. If you want to keep your drawing, have Eleanor take a picture of it or drop it off with her if you would like to unload it. And I will make it into a collage and I will share it with everyone after it's done. So thank you all so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So much fun.
Yeah, baby. It's fun, man. It's really fun.
That's how you do it.
I love the three of us. Rebecca, she started to use that. You guys hit your insights. Strut to God.
Strut.
So fun.
So, whenever I play that, I'm like, I need to take one lesson from you to play it right. It's actually like the coordination I couldn't quite do, you know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You guys sounded so good.
Yeah.
The three of you sounded so good.
Oh yeah, it all came back. Like once we started playing, I was just like, oh yeah.
Great.
Hey, yeah, you're on the list. So I told everybody about it. Rebecca also put out all the word about it to get people out here. But and I'm glad you could pay at the door.
Oh, no, I ordered ahead.
Oh, you did order ahead.
Because
Okay.
I knew I was going to come either way, so I was
Okay.
sure that was just a better request.
Yeah. So, yeah.